Hello and welcome to a video on how to connect up Monday.com and Calendly so that when somebody schedules a Calendly call, it'll automatically drop it into your leads or sales hub inside of Monday.com. It'll create a contact and it will link up all of the information that they filled out on that leads section, as well as giving you an update inside of Monday.com saying exactly when it was scheduled, who it was scheduled with, and a link to go and view it inside of Calendly. So how this works is you have a public Calendly event page where people can schedule time on your calendar. I can select that time. I can put in a name. I'm going to say this is Jane Doe. This is going to be janedoe@gmail.com. And Jane is interested in service ticketing. I want to manage service tickets on my Monday.com board. And she's going to specify a phone number and then hit schedule event. Now, behind the scenes, there is a integration that's running where it will take a Calendly event, it'll grab the information, it'll run, and it will create and put that information inside of Monday.com. So we have Jane Doe. Jane Doe exists as a new contact. I can see her email address there. I can see the notes. I see that she's interested in service ticketing, and if I open this item up, I can see that their event was scheduled for June 17th at 2 p.m. and I can view it in Calendly if I like to. I click on the View Calendly, and I can see all of the details of the event in here if I like, and I can wait to join that call when the date arrives. And this is the end of the demo portion, and then we'll switch over and show you how to set this up using Make.com and how to wire everything in together. Hello and welcome to a tutorial on how to integrate Monday.com and Calendly so that when somebody schedules a new Calendly event, it will automatically add into your Monday.com CRM. So right here, I have the setup ready to go. We have a Sales Hub board. This is going to be our leads intake section where we want to create new opportunities based on somebody filling out a Calendly invite link. I'll note that this can also work for other event scheduling systems, but I'm just going to show how to do it with Calendly. So this is the main page that we're going to push to, and then we have our Calendly link, which if I open up a new tab, looks just like this, where somebody can schedule a call. They can select a time, hit next, and then it'll ask them a series of questions like name, email, things that they're interested in, a little text box what they're looking to do, and a spot for a phone number where they will receive automated reminders to come to the event. And then once they schedule the event, all that information we want to populate into Monday.com. Now, we're going to power all this off of a tool called Make.com. Make.com is sort of like Zapier, if you're familiar with Zapier, where you can set up integrations and workflows between different applications. So in here, we are going to set it up with a Calendly integration. We're going to click on this little plus icon, hit Calendly, and then we want to watch events for when an event is either canceled or updated. Click Add, and we're going to say New Scheduled Event, and only when an invitee is created, and we're going to select our organization. There we go. Once we do that, we now have this all set up, and then we can go ahead and test it, hit save, run once, and this is going to be our trigger, so that when somebody schedules an event, it will automatically fill this out. So we're going to go ahead and do that. We're going to fill our name out, email address, and we're going to say our interested in QuickBooks integration. This is going to be our integration needs to work with QuickBooks, and phone number. There we go. Hit schedule event. It's been scheduled. We now see we have a new connection and a bunch of information for the specific event ID. Now that we have all this information, we are going to set up a spot to make it more readable because it's a lot of raw information, questions and answers, etc. We already know exactly what we want, so we're going to say create one of these tool modules. It's called set variables. There we go. In set variables, we are going to specify each of the variables. So our questions on the form here were name, email, things that they're interested in, what they're looking to do, and phone number. So that's gonna be our information. So we're gonna go contact name, contact email, contact phone, interested, oops, services, and we want to have comments. There we go. And then we'll also go ahead and add the scheduled time of the event as well, just so that we can see when the meeting is scheduled for. So we're going to say scheduled meeting date. There we go. And then in the contact name, we're now going to map all of these variables from this section into here. So the contact name, we are going to want to pull in from this space right here. Contact email, we can see an example of the email address that they used. Phone number, that's probably going to be under questions and answers. Nope, not under there. Okay, there we go. Okay. Text reminder number. Interested services, this is going to be under the questions and answers. And it's going to be under here. This is okay, so this is a special kind of drop-down field where it's going to map multiple variables. If we close it out and we go in here and see questions and answers, we see there's an array of collections. So an array of collections is a collection is a set of information where it's going to have multiple values in it that are going to be fixed. So you can see answer, position, question. And then we have a array, which is a series of those collections of information. So a collection is just a series of a piece of information. An array is a group of that type of that information. So these are two different questions. So what we need to do to extract these out is to map them. So to map them, we're going to find the question. We're going to find the question name, and or we can do also the position, but we're going to do question name here and the question name here, and we're going to map those. So how this works is if we want to get the answer, if we were to just click on this, you can see there is it's going to map the answer, and there's a little space in between here where you can specify which answer do you want. Do you want the answer to the first question or the second question? You can always specify one like that, or two to get the second question. Or if we want specific things, we can go and map questions and answers, and we want to map the answer. So that's going to be the raw is answer. We're going to type answer where the question, so where the question variable is equal to tell us a little about what you're looking to do. So how this works is it's going to return the answer where the question is equal to tell us about what you're looking to do, and that will return it. I'm actually not going to do this for now because I know the position of the questions, and I may change the questions later. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete that. And for interested services, I know that that is going to be answer 0 or position 1 because we want the first result of that. And then comments, this is going to be result or position 2 or the second answer that they have. And then scheduled meeting date, that is going to be underneath the right down here. So it's going to be scheduled event, start time June 10th, 2024 at 11 a.m. So we're going to select that right there and click OK. So now let's confirm this. We have first question, which is what are you primarily interested in? The services question. And then the second question, which is the notes, our integration needs to work with QuickBooks. So now that we have all of those variables, we can hit auto align to clean things up and then hit save. I like to name each of my modules to make sure it's very clear. So I'm going to copy this name up here. This is our trigger. So Calendly event scheduled, and then this is going to be a set variables to make them easier to use later. Okay, now we're going to hit save, and then now we're going to hook it up with Monday.com. So I'm going to make this a little more complicated, and what I wanted to do is I want to check to see if our contact database already has somebody listed with that email address so we don't accidentally create duplicates. So how we're going to do that is we are going to specify, go to Monday.com, and we're going to search our contact database. This is going to be this account here. We're going to limit it to just one result because if it matches, we want an exact match. And then we're going to search the contacts database. Now I have a bunch of contacts databases here, so I am going to make sure that I select the right one, and I will put a little unique name marker on it. It's going to be under this. Just working on another screen here. This is going to be, let's go a little finger icon, and we're going to refresh this. And we want this one right here. So contact database. And we're going to search by the email address and contact email right there. Hit OK. And we're going to rename this to search contacts or search contacts start, because that's we're going to start searching for it. Oh, and then before I do that, I always like to put this in here as an extra variable. If for some reason the email is not provided or a phone number is not provided, I like to do a little if empty, like that. And then I'm going to put a fictitious email in here just so that it's going to search based off of some email address. It doesn't have to be anything accurate. So this is going to be period@period.com. That's a fictitious email address that will never really be used for anything. So if it's empty, it'll search it and it'll never come back for anything. So that'll be good, so that you don't actually accidentally get an error in the system. And for the contact phone number, I'm just going to say if empty, make sure there's an empty string so that it populates something. Okay, and then for interested services, I'm going to say if empty, this is going to be unknown. Again, just so that we don't get errors later on. Comments is going to be if empty, it's going to be an empty string. There we go. And scheduled meeting date is fine because it's going to have that. Contact name is going to be fine. It's going to have that as well. But just in case, I'm going to put unknown in here. Known. Cool. Okay. Now going back again. We're searching the contacts. We're not doing the name because sometimes you'll have duplicate names, like two John Does, but they're two different companies or two different organizations. So I like to do off a unique piece of information like an email address. So now we search in the context to begin with, and we're going to hook this up to search there, and then we're going to only want to return the ID of that money.com item if it finds it, and then specify only if the ID exists, i.e. if it returns a result, then we want to make this successful. So we're going to rename this to search contacts end. So you can kind of think of this as like a mini scenario inside of a larger scenario where you can perform a specific action. So there's a search function, and if it comes back blank, then we want to perform a different action. So in this case, if the search comes back blank, then we want to create a new contact. So these iterators and array aggregators have a not really intended to use for this purpose, but I find it's very helpful. You can make sort of conditional logic. So you can pass over a conditional logic if you want to. So that way you don't have like a bunch of splitting ones with a bunch of routers. Routers can get super messy really, really fast. So what I like to do is just delete all of that, hook it up, and then have a linear flow of actions. So our iterator, we're going to put a little period in here so it always performs or goes through. And then we're going to rename this to create contact start. So our action is to create the contact, and this is specifying this is the start of it, and you'll see like this one here has an end. So start, and this just makes things cleaner and more organized as we go. So from here, we're going to go to Monday, and we're going to create an item. And to make sure that it's the right account. Item name is going to be that contact name, and this is going to be in that contacts database. So contacts right here. And we're going to select the variables that we want. So we're going to specify the email address and phone number if it applies. So this is where it gets a little bit tricky. Phone numbers can be really annoying sometimes if you don't have them specified or if they are working with other country codes. So I will go through that in just a second here. For now, I'm just going to put the phone number in there, and I'm going to put a US code here. If the phone number does not exist, this will return an error because you're basically telling it this is a US phone number, and then you don't provide the phone number. So I'll go and to show you how to fix that problem later on. We have an email address, map that email address in there, and we now have our contact. We're going to click OK. We're going to rename this to create contact so that we know what it does. And then we're going to put a filter on this. And what this filter was going to say is we're going to say if the search function returns nothing, as in we didn't find anything, then we want to create this contact. So we're going to specify the ID, and we're going to say if it does not exist, then create it or pass this filter. So this is going to go check this. If it cannot create it, if it doesn't already exist, it'll create the contact. Next, we're going to go to an array aggregator, basically ending that sequence. Source module is this create contact start, so we can select that from the source module. And we want to specify the ID as the output. And then we're going to rename this to create contact end, closing this sequence. So now we have our full sequence to either search or create a contact. I'm going to save this, and I'm going to go back over here to the set variables, and underneath contact phone, I'm going to add another variable here. This is going to be contact phone code. So this, I'm going to specify what I want to do here is if the number does not exist, we want to return an empty string, so that over here it's going to return an empty string in 2 fields instead of just 1, so that way it doesn't give us an error. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to write some conditional logic here. I'm actually going to remove the if empty part. I'll come back to that later. Oh, sorry, I will want to keep that. If empty, this one's fine. Then empty string. If this one though, so since it's a phone code, we can't do an if empty, because if it's not empty, it's going to return the phone number again, and we want just the area, just the state code. So what we're going to do is we're going to say if the text phone number that was used, which is right here, if this exists, we just had to return. So if we say if and we don't put any logic or conditional logic in here, it will automatically do a if this exists, then return result. If else, return other results. So it's going to be if this is going to be true, as in it exists, or false, it doesn't exist. So now we have a if this is true, it's going to be true, or false, false. Then what we can do, well, actually, we're going to even simplify this further. So if true, then we want to equal US for a US area code. If false, then we want to equal a empty string. There we go. What I was going to do is going to specify, once we have the if true false rule, and we do another if outside of that says if true, then equal US. If false, then equal empty string. But we can just simplify it to if the phone number exists, then equal to US. If it doesn't exist, empty string. Hit OK, hit save, and then we're going to go and finish this out. So we're going to make another module called set variables, as we did before. Set multiple variables. I'm going to rename this to set variables. So keep it organized and clean. This is going to be the contact ID this time. So now we want to specify an if empty. If the contact search module came back empty, whoops, then we want to return the contact that I did create. There we go. So we'll have a contact ID no matter what. We're basically saying if this came back empty, it's probably going to create a contact, or it will create a contact. If the contact here is empty, it will just find, it'll know that there's an existing one. So this now specifies the contact ID. Hit save. And our last piece is going to create a new lead inside of our Sales Hub board and populate all the information. So click on Monday, and we're going to go to create an item. Make sure we select the right account again. And item name is just going to be that contact name. The board is going to be the Sales Hub board, which we will need to specify a special name for it. So we're going to do that up arrow again. There we go. Refresh this. And this is going to be Hub. There it is. We're going to select some columns to fill out. Okay, first column is going to be the contact ID. So let's select contact. And by the way, what we're doing here is separating the information between lead information and then contact information. So we want to have a contact database that's very clean, that doesn't have a lot of messiness in it. So we want to make sure there's no duplicates in there. But the Sales Hub can be a little more messy. This is going to be more based on specific events and activities. So this one could be a bit more messy. So we're just connecting a contact, which is just specified in here, with a existing opportunity. Basically, somebody's expressed interest, that is an opportunity. And so we're going to select that with a contact. So now we have our contact. Actually, this is correct. Contact, yeah, that's correct. We want to map the ID. So give us a list of people, but we want to map an ID instead. We want to map that contact ID that we selected earlier. We're going to want to select the interests. And we're going to want to go label. And we're going to want to map a specific label. In this case, that is the interest in services right there. Now, when you do this, it will return an error if the drop down that you have in here, to show that column. So if the column you have in here does not exactly match what you have in your Calendly drop-down menu here, so I have a bunch of different options, then it's going to return an error on the make.com side. So what we're going to do is down here at the very bottom, there's a create labels if missing, and we'll make sure that is true. So it will create it if it doesn't exist, so we don't get any errors. So we have our contact selected, we have a contact name, interests, and then we're going to specify comments or notes. So that is going to be under, let's go lead notes. That's going to be our comments. And that is all the information that we want. We're going to hit OK, and we're going to rename this to create. This is going to be create sales hub, and I want to make sure this is updated. Sales hub. So we specify what is going on here. So new Calendly event scheduled, create a contact, and create a new sales hub lead. So it specifies where it's going to be created in. So we're going to hit save, and there's one final thing that I like to do is I want to know when the event is scheduled for inside of the update section in here. So I want to know exactly when it's scheduled for. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this right here. Actually, you know what I want to do? I want to know when it is, and I want to have a link to Calendly for it as well, and maybe a link to the actual meeting ID itself. So when we originally had this run, we have a bunch of additional information. We have a cancellation link right there. We have a bunch of scheduled event information. So we have our individual guests, members, etc., location, that kind of thing. So what we want to do is we want to specify the Calendly event. So Calendly event URL. And we're going to find which one that is by going over to our main home menu. And we're going to find the existing event that we just created earlier. So scheduled events, we should see one in there. There it is. And we are going to want to see about getting a link here. So normally I like to go to this link and figure out where's the ID for the event. I'm not seeing it immediately, so I'm going to click on edit event type. Maybe it'll pop up. Okay. Maybe you can't. You might have to filter this information. So we are going to filter the information by, let's do this. So if we add the filter, that might change the email. Yep, there it is. Okay. So how we're going to grab this, we're going to specify a special link to go and find the events. So we're going to grab this link here and we're going to recreate it in here. So there's a lot of information in here. And what I'm going to do is just clean it up a little bit. So period, you can sort of see the variables in here. So period equals upcoming. We don't care about that. We really only care about this invitee email section. So we're going to remove all of the rest of this information, and we're going to specify just where the invitee emails equals to, and then we have our email address here. So what we're going to do to grab this is we're going to replace this because we don't want it just for our email address. We want to be any email address. So before I actually delete that, you can see that the @ symbol is replaced with %40. So we're going to replicate that, delete this, and we're going to put email, a variable this time, and we're going to go replace the @ symbol with %40 so that it follows that pattern in here. So when we're filtering it, it'll come to this page and show all of the upcoming events. There we go. And we're click OK, and we're going to hit save. And then one thing I also like to do is I like to format I want to create an update, and I like to format it in a specific way. So I'm going to go ahead and find the format that I like and share it in there. That's going to be this. So I have a predefined template that I like. There it is. And I'll show you this looks like. HTML editor. This is a basic HTML editor where you can format. You post HTML into creating an update inside of Monday.com. It will follow the same logic and rules. So it's pretty cool. So I'm going to copy this information here. This is my standard template where I can specify different variables. So I like this format where it's all bold, and then we have a link to go view in whatever program we like. So we have our different pieces in here. So in this case, I want the message to read event scheduled for, and then we're going to have our variable, we're going to have our time, which is going to be the time. I'll put that in bold so we can find it. With invite, and then we want our person name. So event scheduled name, or maybe the email address would be better. And then over here it says view in PandaDoc. We're going to have it here, and that's not PandaDoc. We want to view in Calendly if we want to go and view it. And then you can see the document URL right here. And I am going to make sure that matches our original variable, which is right here, and that is going to be Calendly event URL. So I'm going to name this to be Calendly event URL. And this is going to be the third piece in here because it's the third one right there. And I think we're good. So we're going to copy this code. We're going to come back in here, create update, and paste it. So now we need to specify the time and email. So the time we're going to replace with the scheduled meeting time. And the email we're going to replace with the contact email. And then make sure that we are updating the correct item. So it's the Sales Hub item that we just created. And that all looks good. So now I'm going to hit save on that. And I'm going to click run once. Oh, actually, there's something else we want to do. We want to make sure it's not on every, don't want to make sure that this runs on every single event type, only specific kinds of event types. So I only want this particular event type. So how am I going to do that? I'm going to put a filter and make sure that it only specifies this particular ID. So in the link, when I'm editing this, it shows that I'm editing the event type and then the ID right here. So I'm going to grab that ID and I'm going to go into my integration here, and I'm going to specify only run this where the event ID, go the type, event type contains this ID. So hit OK. And now we're going to hit save, and we're going to run this once. So now that we have that, we are going to copy the link, paste it. And in fact, what I want to do is I want to open this up in a new tab and watch it run as we fill out the information. So we're going to do that. Okay, so let me grab this, pull this down a little bit, pull this one down as well. So we're going to watch this run as we fill the information out. So if we are a new person and we want to schedule an event, we're going to specify a date, say 10 a.m., hit next, put our name, email, and this QuickBooks, it's the jam, phone number. There we go, hit schedule event. We can watch it come through. Okay, so now we got an error, and we can figure out why we got that error. It's saying that the filter did not, scheduled event ID did not contain this, and in fact, it was not there. So we're going to figure out what that is. This is the event, and let's see here. Scheduled event, event type. Okay, so the event type ID is actually not the one that I thought it would be. It's not this one right here, so we're going to need to find the right event type. So we're actually going to copy this ID right here because this one might be the right one I want. I'm going to copy this and we're going to add that to the rule. It contains that. Actually, let's make sure that that's the right one. Events. Where would we find the type? Event type, that should be the right one. Event type. Okay, so it's not showing up here. We can find the ID. It's by user, scheduled events. Should be right here under scheduled event, event type, event types. Scheduled event, event type. Yeah, that should be right. Okay, we'll try that again. Hit save, hit run once, and we're going to schedule another call. So we're going to get back, specify a different time. Going to get 10 a.m. again. Gideon Harris, Gideon at streamline.com. Fixed integration, 520-624, schedule events. Okay, there we go. Okay, so it came through and it was going to create a contact, but it came with an error. And that is because the phone number was invalid. So it looks like it does not accept the +1. So we're going to have to get the raw phone number instead. So that's a fairly, there we go. Okay, cool. So I just ran into an issue here where I was unable to give me errors for creating a contact. And the solution was to specify, make sure that the contact phone number was raw and only contained numbers and no dashes or no plus like for a country phone code. So we have the phone number right there, and then we have the code right there, US code, sorry, the letter code for the country right there. You'll have to play around with this a bit if you were in another country. Since I'm in the US, since most people I'm dealing with are in the US, this is going to work just fine for my use case. So now we have all the rest of the information. It was able to create a contact. It was able to create a new item in the Sales Hub, and it was able to create the update. So we're going to hit save on that, make sure that all that's saved properly. I'm going to go back in here, and we're going to see that we now have a new item in the Sales Hub called Gideon Harris. We have our contact, we have our email address to be able to click on to send an email to if we need to, and then we can also open this up, and we can see that there's an event scheduled for the event date, which doesn't look very pretty, so I'm going to go in there and fix that, and then I can view in Calendly if I click on this link, and that should show us all of the scheduled events. You see a bunch of these for all of the testing that I was doing. So now all that's ready to go. I'm going to go ahead and hit save on this. I'm going to make that last change, which is the event scheduled time. I'm going to go format date. And this is going to be a special format date, which I like this format right here, which is going to be month, day, year, space, hour, minute, a. There we go. So by putting in that format, it'll make it more readable and easy to view. Then I'm going to hit on, save, and this is now ready to go. So anytime somebody schedules in a call, schedule an event, it'll automatically populate in here. So I'm going to do that one more time just to show it off. View live page, schedule a call, This time I'm going to go with John Doe. This is going to be a different email address. Plus J Doe. QuickBooks is super awesome. 56244. Schedule an event. Okay, it's been scheduled, and then behind the scenes you can see it running, and we now have a new contact in here called John Doe. And we have an opportunity, interest QuickBooks integration, and there is comments in here as well. So QuickBooks is cool, QuickBooks is super awesome right there. And if I open this up, I can see that it is scheduled for this date with an personal email address, and I can view it in Calendly by going here, and it will show me the events for that specific user. That might take a second to populate, and or I may need to change the function here. Oh, it's getting tripped open that plus, I think. Nope. Okay, there we go. Now it's showing up. So that is how you set up a full integration between Calendly and Monday.com using Make.com.